Hey guys, so welcome to the show. This time we are talking about weapon durability, a very decisive topic in the community, of course. Let's go ahead and do a rundown of who's all here. We can just go in order for that, starting with Brasscoin. Make sure to say if you are for weapon durability or against it. Go ahead.
Hey guys, I'm Brasscoin. I'm for weapon durability. I think it's a good addition to the Zelda series.
All right. And Bread?
I think that weapon durability is fine if we give it a lot of tweaking. It's got some problems.
Mm-hmm. I'm Pixel Fusion, and I am against weapon durability. Go ahead, HMK.
Hey guys, it's HMK, and I'm actually for weapon durability. I've always been for weapon durability. I honestly had no issue with it in Breath of the Wild, given the scope and the gameplay of that game. But I will say, improvements definitely can be made.
And HG.
Hey guys, I'm HG, the Snacker Drink Master, your favorite Scottish Zelda tuber, and I'm for weapon durability. Big for.
Oh wow, many people in
Jeez,
favor
wait,
here.
is there anybody that hates it? Am I gonna have to play devil's advocate?
Oh, I'm against it.
I think there may need to be some
I think we have
adjustments, but I'm sure that's
Cornelius
something we'll
here that,
discuss.
Go ahead, Zeldom.
Oh yeah, so I think Cornelius is the only one because I am in favor of weapon durability, but I kind of hate Breath of the Wild's implementation of it. If that helps at all.
Yeah! Woo!
All right, so there we have it. Team for or against. Let's start things off with the first question, and this is a fun one. I think all of us will like. What is a short story you have about weapon durability? I randomized the order, but turns out Brasscoin was first. So go ahead.
Well, all right, I'll kick it off. My short story begins with 2 words of a shrine, Miro Shaz. If you're not familiar with that shrine, or it's been years since you've played the game, that shrine is the golfing shrine, the one where you have to hit that stupid orb, 2 orbs actually, into 2 separate receptacles, and you have to golf it in there. I went through 17 weapons trying to hit that stupid ball into that hole 3 times. I soft resetted the save because it auto saves when you go in. I had to go through 17 weapons 3 times in order to finally get through that shrine. And that's one reason I don't like weapon durability, is I think that in situations like those, you shouldn't be penalized for being sucky at timing.
Sounds like a skill issue, man.
It is hardcore a skill issue.
I did not want to say it. I did not want to say it, but I'm like, it sounds like skill issue.
Thinking it.
It is hardcore skill issue. No question about it.
So
Yeah,
I found with that shrine, the best way to deal with it is to blow yourself over the edge with the wind bomb. And then, just ice bridge your way over there and throw the stupid orb in.
You
Right,
can do that.
casual stuff that
You
everybody
can.
knows.
I have video of it.
Everybody knew that back in 2017, obviously.
I didn't play the game until 2020, so.
All right, so next up is Hyrule Gamer. What is your fun story?
Well, at the time, it was a stressful story, but now, it's fun looking back. The best story I have with weapon durability was actually the Calamity Ganon fight. I hadn't checked which weapons, and shields for the matter, actually, had low durability and closer breaking. Every time I pulled out a weapon, it broke within the first few hits in the biggest fight of the game. But I actually see it as a good thing, because it forced me to get creative, and I think that actually made me enjoy the fight much more.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was very stressful in the moment. This was like first time playing the game, so it was stressful in the moment, but it did force me to think out of the box.
I remember running around in that first fight, waiting for Daruk's protection to recharge because I was bad at parrying.
Yeah, me too.
Anyhow, next up is Bread.
Ooh, okay. Gee, I don't think I have any particularly funny story, although I've definitely ran into situations where, like, oh no, my weapons keep breaking, especially during the Relics of the Past mod. That mod is so brutal, man. So what I end up usually doing when I'm recording videos and I'm using hacks is I'll just add on a infinite durability hack because it makes life so much easier for recording.
That makes
Um,
sense.
But in lieu of not having a story, would it be all right if I instead share an interesting fact I learned recently about durability?
Go ahead.
So, this is something pretty wild, but apparently everybody's been doing weapon durability transfer glitches since 2017 because every time you take the Master Sword, for your first time when you take it off the pedestal, whatever item you're holding previously gets 40 durability points automatically. So if you have a stick with like 3 durability and you get the Master Sword for the first time, your stick now has 40 durability. So that's a pretty
What?
cool thing I learned recently. Not really a funny story, but one of those like head scratchers, bugs that they left in.
Yeah, that's really weird that it does that. All right. Next up is Zeldom.
Oh, hey, that's me. Sorry. So with weapon durability, like I don't know if I really have much of a story, but it kind of bothered me. How easily they break, and when they break, that's just kind of the end of your weapon. There, you just have to go replace it with a new one. Because I remember like there's a lot of really cool side quests, especially when you're brand new to the game. In exploring, you don't really fully understand how the game mechanics work. You go do side quests. I remember being at the stable. And there was like the pirate Misko's treasure or something like that, one of the stables you can get on your way to Kakariko Village, where you kind of follow a river up and there's a little waterfall, you climb up and you use the bombs, and then there's like just a few treasure chests, and like end up getting like a flame blade and such. I'm like, oh my god, a flame blade! This is so cool. I didn't know you could have a weapon that set things on fire. And this was just me, like only playing a few hours into the game at that point. But then just like so you just start using it, and like this is awesome, and then it breaks just after like 50 hits, however many hits, and then you're just like left sad, like that's it. I did that side quest to get this cool sword, and now it's gone. And then also like going through the one of the labyrinths over there at the top, the north of the Akala region, all the way at the top of the map. I think you could end up getting a great flame blade because I had me playing Skyward Sword and Twilight Princess in my first Zelda games, then going into Breath of the Wild. I wasn't used to the whole open world, so I didn't do too much exploring at first. So when I just did these cool side quests and got all these cool weapons, and then when they just broke, I was like, "What the heck?" You would think you would get some kind of like more complex feature, like a hilt left over. So that's something I'd like to see in a future game, being able to like restore weapons or like get like remnants or shards that you can like fuse
Well-
together and craft new weapons out of those broken pieces.
I'm sure we
Something
will
like
talk.
that.
I'm sure we'll talk about that a bit more a little bit later on because
Yeah.
fixing the problem is one of the topics.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna get too far into that, but yeah, thank you.
hmm
Nice.
Next up is actually me. So I will talk about a story I have, which is less an actual story and more of a recurring situation. We're all gamers here, and so we know when it comes to consumables, we don't want to use them. And that's what weapons are in the game, consumable at this point. So I'd commonly end up with an inventory full of weapons because I'm trying to conserve my good ones. Those ancient weapons and whatnot. When I'd complete a shrine or just find a treasure chest out in the open, I would literally groan because I know it's going to be a weapon, and then I'm going to have to play the inventory game. It's going to pop up the message of whatever the weapon is. Then I'm going to have to go. It will cancel out of that because I won't have space for the weapon. And then I'll have to look through my inventory and figure out what weapon am I going to throw away to make room for this good weapon. And it really killed the moment for me every time I found a treasure chest, especially in a shrine when I'd complete it. I was happy when I'd open a chest and it would have rupees or a machine core in it because I wouldn't have to play the inventory game. So that's where a lot of my annoyance comes from. All right. And next up is HMK. What's your story?
Oh man, I was thinking because I have two, but I'm like I got to choose one. And I guess my favorite story when it came to weapon durability was when I played Master Mode for the first time. And I was like exploring the Great Plateau. And then we all know that one random Lionel that they just decide to drop on the Great Plateau. I'm like, you know what?
Ooh.
I'm not gonna leave this place until I take this thing out. You know, that's just the gamer in me. And luckily, we were able to find some cool weapons thanks to the Octrock balloon things that they added to the Great Plateau. I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is definitely a weapon that I wasn't supposed to get at this point in the game. Anyways, as I'm battling this thing, there are always a bunch of bokoblins like hanging around by where the honeycomb tree is, or over by the area leading up to the highest point of the Great Plateau. My dumbass was like, "Hey, let me go full force into this Lionel with everything I got," and then of course everyone started aggroing me, and I had the spear. It was it was a fourth Lizalfo spear, and I was like, okay, this thing is gonna die soon, or like the weapon's gonna break soon. I'm just gonna toss it, right? So I look at the Lionel, I'm like, man, you think I won't? So I throw him and I whiffed it. It went way past his head, and I'm like, oh man, that's great. But as I see it keep going, it actually smacked a bokoblin behind it, straight dead and like between the eyes and broken, and killed that blue bokoblin. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take it. That's good. It's not really a weapon durability story, but I mean, it is, because the only reason why I threw it in the first place was because it was going to break. And I guess that's my story. And I'm like, I just couldn't stop laughing.
Well, it is a situation brought about because of weapon durability, and so it counts to me.
Yeah.
Let's go to the second question. Do you think that weapon durability should be in tiers of the kingdom? This time we're starting off with Bread. Go ahead.
Ha! I was muted. I am back. Okay. I started talking before I checked that. I think that it'd be fine if we had it, but it needs a lot of changes. And I don't know if this is a segment we're having later. I didn't check the conversation layout. I'm a bad person. But it's okay as long as they put the changes in that I'd like to see, such as make it last a little bit longer and give us a means of actually maybe repairing weapons. I know people are constantly saying that if you allow repairing weapons, then people won't experiment with the stuff that they start obtaining. But
what?
That's the thing. This is crazy. People say that repairable weapons is a bad idea.
What?
Because you would only ever find one weapon and repair that over and over again instead of going and testing more weapons. But I'm like, dude, when I get a new item in a video game, I just want to use it. I just want to try it out. It could be a stick. It could be a rock. I don't care. I'm going to use it.
You know what can circumvent that whole idea of like, oh, it's a bad idea? Adding more new weapons so that people will experiment with them anyway. I don't understand.
Yes! Yeah, so repairability, like, totally fine. Add repairability. You don't need to add any new mechanic that's crazy, like, hey, maybe it like drops a hilt and you can build something with that, or like it drops crafting materials and you could work with that. I'm just like, dude, let me repair it, and if it breaks, so be it.
So simplistic.
Yeah. I'm a simple man. So there's my 10 cents on it.
Okay. Next up is HMK. Go ahead.
I would definitely want to see, like, everyone has the same, basically around the same idea of like, I want to see weapon durability back in Tears of the Kingdom, as long as, yes, I'm gonna say it just like everyone else, they add a repair feature, right? You know, like, I don't know why people are saying that it's so like out of the ordinary or something that Nintendo wouldn't do. They've done it before, technically, in Skyward Sword, where you're able to repair your shields using a repair potion, right? So I mean, like, why not do something like that? Of course, you know, not for free and not for just rupees. You know, if I have a flame blade and if I want to repair it, I'm going to need rupees, and I'm going to need at least 1 or 2 rubies, right? You know, the power of flame or whatever.
That
to
is
keep
stated.
it going.
That is stated in their description that they have the power, elemental power in them. But go ahead.
Yeah, and if you actually look closely to the flame blades and any type of flame weapon, on their hilt has a little rupee or a little sapphire or a little topaz in there. So I'm like, just use these, because I mean, in Breath of the Wild, it got to the point where I was way over encumbered with, you know, gems. I'm like, what do I do with these things? You know, I'm not stripped for cash, so I don't need to sell them off or anything like that. I can't build anything out of them. So I mean, like, that would give good use to either crafting weapons or repairing the weapon lifespan, or making armor or what have you. But we're talking about weapon durability. So as long as they add repairing to it, and I would say a more robust indicator on where it's actually at in terms of its lifespan, that would go a long way. But I can see why people don't want it, because it would take away like the whole direness of the situation. But I would like to see if, like, in Breath of the Wild it says, hey, this weapon is about to break. I would like it in Tears of the Kingdom. It's like, hey, swing this sword 3 more times and it's gonna be gone. I'm like, that would help. I'm like, okay, I got 3 more swings in this. Right. So I'm definitely on board with it, with durability being back, but tweaking it a bit so that it's not the end all be all to how a weapon's lifespan is going to be in that game. Have us give us the ability to tweak it, repair it, or even evolve it or anything. I've literally put out a video on like the whole concept of crafting. I'm like, if we have the ability to evolve weapons in certain branching paths, Kirby did it. I'll be down for weapon durability to come back in Breath of the Wild, and then that could lead to experimentation. So I don't know where the experimentation argument's coming from.
That
okay,
is
I'm
a
like, I'm
that
done.
is a
I'm sorry.
that is a really good idea to allow some sort of weapon evolution. But we can touch on that with the third question more.
Gotcha.
For now, we should move on to HG. Go ahead.
Hey. Okay. I think I have a fairly similar opinion to that. My general answer would be, yeah, I think it should return absolutely. I wouldn't want it to be removed. It's just came in. I think it can only get better, if anything. And as to the sort of side of adding repairing, I'm very much on board with that. And honestly, I don't think it will take away any getting players to try new weapons. I feel like if anything, I feel like naturally players will go for new things. If they add new stuff, players will go for it. It's like shiny new object. You're gonna want to try it out regardless. I don't think adding repairing weapons will, I guess, ruin that, so to say. And if anything, I think it actually kind of caters to two different types of players. Those who want to go out and try things will. Those that are happy to stick to one thing and build on it, repair, more than happy to do so. But yeah, I think generally, yeah, I think it should return. Repairing of some kind should be in there, but I don't think it should be as straightforward as just if you have some materials, you can just slap it together and that's it. I think it should be pretty strict as to how you can repair it, so it's not easy, so to say.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, in like Minecraft, I'm not sure if all of you have played it. On
Oh,
the
yeah.
fly, you can just ram 2 weapons together to restore
Yeah.
durability.
I don't think that's how it should be done. I think there should be difficulty to repairing them, so to say. There should be an actual challenge. It's not just slapping it together, so to say. I think it should be a challenge to repair it, which will also keep players trying new things as well.
Okay. And let's see. Zeldom, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I already kind of touched up on this on the first part. Yeah, I definitely think we should have the weapon durability. I would really like if we just had more complex features in the game, because after you kind of get the feel for Breath of the Wild, it's overall a pretty simplistic game. There's not really that many complex mechanics. Sure, there's a lot of very small and subtle features in the game itself. But you can get used to. You just collect items and you can maybe use them to upgrade your armor. Um, but you can't really create anything new. Like the weapons, I feel like the armor system where you can just have to gather all these random items to upgrade your armor, that was even more complex than the weapon system. It's just you have weapons, they have a certain durability, and sometimes they have a little special power to them, like long throw or stuff like that. Or durability plus. But that's not really anything too exciting. I would like to see a greater variety of weapons. I feel like that's something Breath of the Wild seriously lacked, was just of both just the lack of variety in a lot of aspects, like enemies, weapon types, that kind of thing. Because there were a lot of times where your power ups became obsolete, where oh, you can drink a potion, for example, but you could, instead of doing that, you could just wear a specific type of armor to gain heat resistance for the Death Mountain. So I feel like that's a huge problem Breath of the Wild faces, is you can just get these, there's only like one type of power up you need for a very specific solution or part of the game, and then a lot of these items just become obsolete. And the same kind of goes for the weapons, is like there's just not variety, and you could get a lot. I feel like there's a lot of room where you could just create more unique weapons, like having the little brand, like the evolution, or being able to craft your own was kind of a cool concept. So I like to see something where the weapons break, but you can, yes, repair them, spending rupees and also having to bring in materials. I think that's a really clever concept, and gives your resources, collectibles, a little bit more meaning, which is something Breath of the Wild kind of lacks.
That
And
does
like,
seem good. Didn't mean to cut you off.
yeah, I don't want to ramble on too long because I think you guys just get where I'm getting at. But yeah, like just when you break a weapon, you can also, instead of just finding weapons outright, you can find stuff you can use to craft into a weapon. Because sometimes it doesn't make too much sense of why you just find a random perfectly good sword just lying out in the middle of the field. Sure, it's maybe by a bokoblin fort, or just there's some crates there, but there's not even like if there's not a stronghold, sometimes you just find weapons just lying around.
Right, and that gets into the consumption problem with them, which is that they always have to be feeding you new weapons, because otherwise bad players might just be breaking all their stuff because they don't use their weapons efficiently.
Right.
They're playing golf with them.
Yeah, let's go.
I don't
Golf for the
remember.
win.
Was it you, Brett, who did a video that showed like how hitting a rupee takes weapon durability?
Yes, actually, you can break your weapon if you hit a rupee.
Wow.
Which
Wow.
is so backwards from previous games where you could hit a rupee and you would collect it. Pretty funny. So you could actually use it for playing soccer, since when you hit the rupee, you could actually fling it somewhere. So there's that. No.
All right. So in my situation, I would be okay with weapon durability returning in some capacity for Tears of the Kingdom, but I am mostly against it. The one thing about Breath of the Wild that really annoyed me with the Master Sword trial is, even when you complete that, the thing still doesn't have like infinite durability. It still has a cooldown at times, and that really annoyed me. In Tears of the Kingdom, I would like to see some sort of upgrade system that would either increase the amount of durability on weapons that you craft, or if you really go all in on a weapon, you could just make it so it never breaks. But I think we're all generally in agreement that we want a resource sink into your weapons to make them better.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Maybe the
Yeah, I
Master
think that's
Sword.
fine. I don't know if that's necessarily the answer, but it's one way of solving it.
Can you imagine that when either rebuilding weapons or evolving weapons or making weapons, you can expend like something that you find, that let's just call it like a fairy stone, just for the lack of a better term. You
Okay,
can
I like this.
expend a fairy stone on the weapon that you're making, and then it gives you the ability to roll for an ability that gets attached to the weapon, such as longer durability, long throw, attack plus up, and that we're like a really low chance. And I'm talking about a really low chance, like 5%, 2%, maybe even 1% chance of gaining no breaking ability.
Oh
And
wow,
then-
you're killing the speedrunning community here with this RNG thing. Oh
Nah,
my
can you
gosh.
that will definitely, add to the longevity of the game, where it's like, okay, I'm out here trying to roll this one thing, roll it, and then that'll lead them to like breaking weapons, making new weapons and stuff like that, and then trying to find these things. And then can you imagine the videos like how to farm fairy stones to like get the best rolls?
Okay, so this is all like one big scheme to get more videos out for us.
No.
We need to make more tutorial videos,
No.
guys. Get them views.
That does
Well-
that does come across to me a lot like the enchantments in Minecraft, where you're just rolling and hoping you get the cool stuff. But I think that's all I have to say on these specific
I do want to
topics.
touch up. I really like what you said about the Master Sword. Like it's kind of like the recharging concept. Like honestly, since I usually tend to focus a lot more on the lore of the Zelda games, that's what like really pissed me off. It's just like, oh, you can't use the Master Sword for like another 5 or 10 minutes. It has to recharge. Dude, Link in every other Zelda game in existence has been able to use the Master Sword ever since he got it without having to take a break. That was his sword. But you're telling me now that, oh, it just has to recharge because you hit too many bokoblins with it? Like,
It's totally backed up by lore.
I understand that, like, okay, they have other weapons, and you can't just like once you get the Master Sword, you don't need any other weapon in the entire game. That would just kind of destroy the mechanic. I understand that, but I feel like if they like once again like added more features, more motivations, like oh, okay, like your Master Sword is just gonna be like your normal kind of sword. But if you have all these other kinds of weapons that have, maybe you can craft them so they have like unique abilities, or maybe you can like smelt. Like if you have go, say you get just a standard knight sword, like obviously the master sword's better than that, so you can just like maybe melt that down and create a different kind of weapon, like another like a different kind of spear. A spear you fight differently with a spear than you do a sword. So maybe you could, if they added a little bit more advanced features, they could make the master sword still have its purpose as like its a sword without having some idiotic excuse like oh it has to recharge. You know.
So that actually really reminds me. I was playing with a second story. The other story I was thinking of sharing actually relates to what you were talking about, Zeldom, where because the Master Sword has a cooldown when it should have infinite durability, I ended up in a situation where I would use it to break rocks and trees and things like that because it's the one thing that is renewable in my inventory that I don't don't waste as much durability with.
Yeah.
And it's really sad that in my case, the Master Sword became my master pick or master tree cutter and not the weapon I kill evil things with.
Yeah, I had the same exact issue. Like the Terrytown side quest, it was just, oh, the Master Sword. It's used as an easy way to chop down those trees.
Go ahead, Brasscoin. It's your turn.
Oh, yeah. Side tangent to Zeldom's point. The Master Sword needing to recharge is totally backed up in Zelda lore. But that's not the purpose of this discussion here. I also think that it should return in Tears of the Kingdom. I actually thoroughly enjoyed the weapon breaking or weapon durability mechanic. Like all of you have mentioned, I do agree that it needs significant changes in order to make it worthwhile in Tears of the Kingdom, especially with what we've been showing thus far. We're in the Sky Islands a lot. There may not be as bountiful of weapons to be found up there, and it could be pretty tedious to have to return to Hyrule to find these weapons more easily where they're already readily available, and then return to the sky. I'm hoping that that doesn't become part of the issue.
That would be pretty annoying to have to return to Hyrule and farm weapons, for lack of a better term. All right. So with that, we can go ahead and move on to the third question, which we've already talked about a bit, but here we go officially. What single thing would you change about weapon durability in Tears of the Kingdom? I think we've covered that a bit, but we can go through it. And it turns out I'm actually the person talking about this to start off with.
Go Pixel.
So, we've already addressed repairing weapons, and I think that's a big part of it. I like the idea that HMK brought up with evolving weapons, but the big thing that I would like to see would be if you could gain a weapon and they treat it like a piece of armor, where it's a permanent part of your inventory. And yeah, it has weapon durability, it can break, but it doesn't get removed from your inventory. At that point, you can go to wherever you need to in order to get it repaired and restore its durability to full. That's the number one change I would like to see here. And I'd even be willing to go with the Master Sword needs that. Even if you have to take it to the pedestal or maybe infuse glowy MacGuffin into it. But that would be an excellent change on my part.
Well, yeah, because I think with the Master Sword having to recharge in previously in Zelda lore, it's usually something where it's been resting over time or it's been damaged, and usually you have to like have the sages or something like bless it, because in like Skyward Sword, it only becomes the true Master Sword even after the Sacred Flames when Hylia blesses it. And usually it's the sages later on in the game, like when the Master Sword has been dormant for a long time, usually the sages have to like reawaken the light force that Hylia blessed the sword with, all the way back in Skyward Sword. But like that's kind of a different case here. But with Tears of the Kingdom, I kind of like how you're going with that, because the sword's damaged, so we're gonna have to refuse it some way. So I really think we can see a lot of change coming in with that mechanic.
Yeah, and that would help a lot.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. The one thing I would want for them to change or add, like for durability or like any type of crafting, I would say in general when it comes to weapons is, you know, like I said it before, like weapon crafting paths where just that it will allow you to experiment more in terms of what you can make, what you can find, and like it'll get. You guys have already been saying it. It's going to be a good like material sink for everything, because at the end of the day, Breath of the Wild. As I love this game, trust me, this is like my favorite Zelda. It's become my favorite Zelda game. But it felt very experimental, like in all facets, like dungeons, voice acting, music, even designs, and of course, how they tackle weapons with durability. Right. Of course, there's a lot of issues people have with the durability and whatnot. But I feel that since this game is out and about and it's been out for almost 6 years, it's going to be 6 years in March. I feel Nintendo has like a good idea on how they could tweak the way they tackle weapons, because I don't think weapon durability is going anywhere, but they're gonna possibly like make it so that it's going to be a lot bigger, better, more refined, and just a lot more fun overall in terms of how you would go about rebuilding your weapons, building weapons from scratch, or even finding weapon recipes out in the overworld, which will, like let's say you find a recipe in a cave or in a shrine or in a shrine equivalent, whatever, or in a dungeon. And then the only way you can make this weapon is if you have the recipe. And the recipe calls for at least one knight sword, 2 rubies, and like a bokoblin wing, no bokoblin horn or anything like that. And you're able to make this like cursed knight sword. And something like that, I feel would not only circumvent the problems and how people criticize weapon durability, because it'll give like a way bigger pool of craftable weapons, but then of course adding repairing and all that stuff would help like the view on how people see weapon durability as a whole in a better light. I'm definitely like, I do not need at all unbreakable weapons. I don't need that, even for the Master Sword or wherever the Master Sword is going to become in Tears of the Kingdom. I don't need that at all, right? Considering how Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild plays. But as long as they refine and add more options to the whole of crafting and refinement and repairing, I'm good with durability as it stands. So that's my take.
Just bouncing off of that really quick. I think your idea of being able to modify weapons with monster parts would be really neat to make, darker and edgier weapons, maybe past villain weapons, and that could be a really good use of what's his name, Mon, the monster guy from Breath of the Wild.
Oh, Kilton.
Kilton, yeah. Mon was
man, he's gonna be an enemy in Tears of the Kingdom. I'm telling you guys this right now. Ganondorf is back, and he's gonna be one of the first people that Ganondorf recruits. I'm telling you 100%. Kilton's going to be a bad guy in the
No, I'm telling you guys.
You 100% that he's going to be in and will be a bad guy.
Yes. Kilton's back, and he's going to be bad.
Can you imagine him being possessed with malice and having to fight him on his
willingly?
balloon?
He will be like, "Oh, give me the malice, yes, my lord Ganondorf." Willingly, he's going to be like, "This is the ultimate monster." Of course, I'm like, I'm going to bow down. It's going to happen. Watch.
I'm just waiting for the new champions like Riju and Sidon to come back and start referencing events of Age of Calamity, with Nintendo trying to make that canon.
I'm still
very subtly. They just have to reference
sore.
it for 2 seconds, just subtly. That's it. It happened. That happened. That's all.
I'm pretty sore about Age of Calamity, but I won't.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
here.
for sure.
That's a whole other conversation.
Like they could have made it canon. They could have, but they kind of butchered a few parts of the story that made it contradict some stuff mentioned in Breath of the Wild. Unfortunately,
They contradict their own timeline. It bugs me so much.
Yes.
Yeah, welcome to Zelda.
Yep.
Anyhow, Andy, Zeldom, go ahead.
Well, honestly, I don't think I really have anything new to add. I kind of expressed like I guess if I had to pick, the one thing I would want them to change is uh I've already expressed like adding more complex features, yes, but I've kind of used that for the last two questions. So I will revisit. The one thing I want them to change about weapon durability is just don't make it say the master sword has to recharge. Literally, just another word, please. I don't know why, but that's my pet peeve. Is just the recharge word.
I rest or yeah, just rest.
It's just like even if the game just says, dude, just change it up a bit. But be creative.
So
I don't care.
Master Sword needs a nap.
So
Yeah,
on
He's
that
tired.
It needs a nap. Yes, I don't care.
So on that topic, you guys are aware that they found people found in the files the animation for when the Master Sword ran out of energy. It's supposed to leave your inventory and go all the way back
and
to the pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
That was a good one to change. I'm pretty stoked about changing that one.
I'm just thinking about how awful because I already have issues,
Yeah.
and so
That would have
does
sucked.
Zeldom
Ooh.
about it needing to recharge. The idea that it would leave your inventory and you have to go all the way back to the wood. You could quick travel there, but you have to go all the way back to the Lost Woods and pull it again. Ugh. That's
And
terrible.
what sucks even more is if you were on the Wii U, then you have to go back through the Korok Forest, or in other words, the I want my Wii U to die forest. And I'm sure it's like that on the Switch too. I just don't want to go back there.
Yeah,
but I
it's
don't
not
have to.
as bad on the Switch. You only drop down to like maybe 20, 15 frames per second as
Oh yeah,
opposed to like
okay,
the
so
4
still,
you get on
still
Wii U.
livable.
Hey, that's still
Yeah,
double
yeah.
digit.
It
Still-
got better thanks to patches and whatnot, but the Wii U is just like smoke coming out.
I'm not even kidding. I have a 3080 Ti here in my new PC I built back in March, and like I swear my GPU still gains like maybe 8 degrees in temperature when I enter Korok Forest.
Because
Hey,
because it's
Nayru,
seemingly...
welcome.
Hey, Nayru's here.
Nayru
Yeah.
arrived. Yes.
I made it. What are we talking about?
All right, so we were.
Twilight Princess.
Oh,
Yes!
God.
Oh dear.
Twilight Princess.
Leave
let
Let's
me-
get back to this discussion.
Here, let me run down the questions with Nayru really quick, so that way he can get in on it. First part, go ahead and introduce yourself, Nayru. And are you for or against weapon durability?
My name is Nayru. I'm shockingly a Zelda tuber. Haven't really made a video in a while, but I guess I'm still a Zelda tuber. And I really like Wind Waker and the Oracle games, and I think weapon durability is not so good.
Okay.
Finally.
Ooh.
Is
All
everyone
right.
pro weapon so far? Pro weapon breaking?
It's more nuanced than that.
I am against it, actually. But do you have a short story you would like to share with us about your frustrations with weapon durability?
Oh yeah, actually, I certainly do. This is my favorite one to tell, mostly because it seems to really bother people. Like I've had multiple people get genuinely upset by this, but nowadays I don't play too much Breath of the Wild anymore, just because I've kind of expended its worth
It's
for
been
myself
6
personally.
years.
Yeah, exactly. But when I do play it nowadays, I don't bother with weapon durability at all. What I will do is if I am wandering around and my weapon breaks at an inopportune time, it doesn't matter because at this point the only weapon I use is the Master Sword. And I will literally just get Link to a safe place, put my controller down for 10 minutes, and then come back and keep playing when the controller is fully charged.
Wow.
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 Holy cow, that's metal.
Beating the system.
Yeah, so that's the thorough level to which I just don't have time for weapon durability anymore. Except for when I'm playing on Breath of the Wild Deluxe Edition for the PC, at which case I just I just modded it out. So
All right. The second question we did was, do you think weapon durability should be in Tears of the Kingdom?
yeah, totally. So I don't like weapon durability, but I don't think that it should go away. I just think that there should be alternatives to it, or it should be heavily reduced, maybe at like half the rate it's currently at. Ideally, I would really like to see a system where you could just put some work in to make it so certain weapons don't break. I'm thinking of like maybe really expensive materials or like a long quest line, and at the end of it, you can pick one or two weapons that just don't break anymore, or at least break at a way slower rate and can be repaired. I definitely don't want to see the durability go away completely. It's just that to me personally, it really hampers my ability to enjoy Breath of the Wild's combat. So I would like to see some sort of meet in the middle type thing where it's still in the game, but not quite as egregious.
Okay. And that brings us to the third question, which is actually Brasscoin's turn to answer, which is, which single thing would you want to change about weapon durability in Tears of the Kingdom?
All right, so same as y'all, we've already talked about it quite a bit. Customization of the weapons, the ability to change their types if necessary, like HMK's mentioned a couple times. They all use elemental stones of some kind. Just being able to craft them with such stones to make them more abundant, easier to obtain in some regards without having to track them down, because we all have a plethora of these materials just chilling in our inventory, and making it slightly more difficult to create them. And sticking with Zelda lore, we've had in the past, you toss an item into a Great Fairy Fountain and out pops an upgraded version. Something like that, where we take it to the Great Fairy just like our armor sets to have it upgraded with the Great Fairy. Costs a fortune to do, costs materials, takes time to obtain. It rectifies all of those issues by making it difficult to obtain, but still obtainable for those that want to not have them break all the time. And to add to that, the ability to repair them at the same location. Popping open your inventory and repairing them seems kind of cheap to me, but having the option to trek to a Great Fairy Fountain or some other facility like that to repair them or create them in the first place, I think would be optimal.
Using the Great Fairies as a way to restore it sounds like a good idea, because they're already equipment focused in Breath of the Wild, so it seems like a good way just to give them some rupees, some gems, and they could, I don't know, like kiss the weapon and make it better.
Oh my gosh.
We need that cutscene more in our life. Good
Kick the
gosh.
weapons down into the
Yeah.
fountain.
Alright, so with that, let's go ahead, since Nayru just did 2 questions in a row. Let's go with HG.
Okay, so basically a lot of the things already said I had in mind, so to avoid repeating them, I actually changed mine to something kind of smaller, on the smaller end of this. And that is that the one single thing I'd change is the pop-up message. It's not actually a problem, it's actually kind of funny at times to me. But I'd actually like a meter of some kind that measures the durability scale. It doesn't have to be completely accurate, because I think that might cause people to, I don't know, think too much about it so much and maybe not push them to go try the things. Even if it was just like chunks in a way, like you have 4 chunks of durability or however many to make it a bit more accurate rather than just the one pop-up message when you're close. This kind of comes from playing it on that deluxe edition on PC, and being able to see the durability there. And it kind of made me think that that would be really helpful in game, just maybe not as precise as that. So like, I don't know, 4 chunks, 6 chunks, 10, whatever. Just so you can see roughly where it's at all times. That's
Sounds like
the
it'd
one
be-
thing I'd change.
Sounds like that would be kind of similar to the what do you call it? The meter that you have in like Minecraft, where it's just like a
Right,
little
right.
line. It doesn't tell you the
Yeah.
exact amount.
Yeah,
Oh,
kind of like that.
I would be all
That's a
down for
great
like
suggestion.
That's the one thing I'd change.
I would be all down for the raw number. Just give me the 20 out of 60 or whatever.
Well, I think it also is dependent too, because is it if you're, because if it's what are you hitting it with? If you're using it to hit a boulder, or you're doing a heavy attack or a light attack. So you know how you can like charge up and swing. Like if you're doing a spin attack, that actually I think that uses a different amount of durability. If I'm maybe Bread knows if I'm wrong, but
I have absolutely no idea. We even
okay,
need Crowan on this chat because he's the master
but
of that kind of
I
stuff.
do know for a fact that if you're like hitting a boulder, like because I think it uses a certain amount of a different number of points. So maybe I don't know if Nintendo had what kind of scale they use to determine durability, like how the number system works. But it's there's a possibility it may not be able to just correspond. So being able to read a number may not be an accurate representation of like how many hits it has left, if that makes any sense. But if
Well,
we do
there
have a
actually
number,
is a
people
number
could.
in game for this. There actually is
Yeah,
one number for it.
people would have to
They
figure
could
have to
pixel it.
experiment on their own, like how much, like what type of application they're going to use the weapon for takes away durability for. Like, is it a light hit on what enemy? Like, for example, will it take away 3 points if I just hit up a goblin with it versus like 6 if I hit a boulder? So people will have to experiment on their own, which would be cool. Especially, I mean, for you guys who make like the fun facts videos, tutorials, that would be it's more content.
It brings
But-
us the content.
Yes, more content.
I was gonna say that maybe that's in Croton's Stats of the Wilds videos somewhere. Those are pretty good.
Actually, with the meter thing, I want to mention if it seems like it's also a good idea to have numbers, but also not to have numbers, then you could do the same thing with the Champion's Tunic with weapons. When you have the Champion's Tunic equipped, you can now see the number of hit points enemies have, the exact number.
Yeah.
But at the beginning of the game, you don't get that, so it's just a meter for enemy health. You could do the same thing and make it a reward for players if they do a certain quest to see how many hit points their weapons have.
Oh, for sure.
Kind of adding a new reward to the game, because I'm always up for that. I think that's great.
I'd also like to see a toggle feature, like when you put on the Champion's Tunic, because maybe you just want to wear the Champion's Tunic just for aesthetics instead of being able to see the health bar just because you're wearing the tunic. So maybe having the option to be able to toggle those kinds of features on and off when you're wearing the special kinds of clothing or armor. I think that'd be cool because obviously if you're wearing like the clothing to keep you warm, that can't be toggleable. But if it's Champion's Tunic where you can see the enemy's health, maybe that's something you can customize. I don't know.
That
Especially
sounds really
when you're
cool,
making
actually.
a YouTube, yeah, if you're making a YouTube video, maybe you just want to be wearing the Champion's Tunic for hypothetically, but you don't want the health bar to be showing. I know there's small little details like that where you're making through and you're playing with emulators to get specific footage where you just wish something was customizable, but it's not.
Oh, I have a feeling that that YouTubers are going to be showing off that new toga look for Link, but it would be cool if the toga had this weapon durability visual to it, like we're talking about.
Can I add on to something that Zeldom said?
No.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Ooh, jeez.
Never mind. It was
Dirty
dumb
Wind
anyways.
Waker fans.
Whoa! No, we are
Okay,
not doing this.
Oh, it's a fist fight in here.
Okay, I'm back.
He's allowed his bad taste. It's okay. I was just gonna say what you were talking about. Kind of made me think of the weapon system in the Hyrule Warriors games. Because in those games, if you have a special ability on one weapon and you want to put it on the other weapon, you can actually just like sacrifice them both into one and transfer them. And I'd love to see something like that in Tears of the Kingdom, where if you get like a piece of armor with an effect you like, but you don't really want it on that piece of armor, maybe you can transfer it to another piece of armor. That way you can have your tunic, but without the ability, or perhaps with a different ability that you like. Because I've often felt the same thing.
Brett, go ahead.
I get to go?
You do.
What? This is crazy.
I gotta say, I
Power.
love what you're doing with your icon in the image. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Your vote of confidence is overwhelming. So, I guess repair's already been talked about, so I can't bring that one up. I think repair's a great idea. Just use the resources. I need a sink for my wood, guys. I have too many sticks. But also, something that wasn't talked about earlier, and I think is good about durability and that we should keep, is a compendium system for weapons. This is related, I think. This sounds like it's unrelated, but
Is there not one?
bear with me. There is. It's your picture album.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about one thing that we should keep and one thing we should get rid of, because I didn't see a section where we could talk about things to keep about durability. And this seems like the best time to talk about it.
Sure, go ahead.
Weapons are like Pokemon, okay? Like, we want to collect them all. And I want a place where I could pay attention to how many I've collected. And the fact that there was a picture album gallery for weapons in Breath of the Wild was a really cool thing. And I think we should bring that back for the sequel. Now,
Oh yeah, definitely, 100%.
yeah, that's all I'm trying to say. And it doesn't even need to be a picture gallery mode. I'd be fine if, like, I pick up a weapon and it's like a check mark somewhere in my game and it's like, hey, you've gotten this weapon before. Congratulations. I'd love that. That'd be great. But one thing that I've heard proposed, this is something we could change, is a comment that I got 2 years ago on my channel when I made a video about durability. This person said, hey, there should be a sharpness meter for your weapon, and when you use it, it doesn't just explode into a million pieces when you waste it, or when it's broken. Instead, it just loses 1 point of damage every time you use it. So if it's a 100 damage weapon and you use it, and you hit an enemy once, then the next time you use it, it only does 99 damage. And so on and so forth, until you get to 1. And the weapon never breaks, but now it's only doing 1
basically
damage.
useless. Yeah.
It's basically useless. So if it has like, elemental effects of it would probably run out as well. Like, it wouldn't heat you when it gets to that point. But you'd still have it on you, so then you could use it for repair, or you could throw it, or you could, use it for chopping down trees if you're so inclined. I thought that was a really interesting proposal. Would it work? Maybe. But it's an idea nonetheless.
Having the weapon degrade its attack power does sound pretty cool. Some sort of ablative property.
Yeah, like just a depletion of sharpness.
Monster Hunter time.
Oh yeah.
Bust out the
Yeah.
whetstones.
All right, so how about you, Nayru, for this question? What do you think?
So I guess I kind of already laid out what I would one of my thoughts of what I would change. But the other thing that I think I would change in regards to weapon durability is I'm hoping that the plot of the game as we understand it so far kind of argues against this as it is, but I don't want the Master Sword to break anymore. It feels so lame. Why is the Master Sword breaking? It's like
Well, the game is starting with it breaking.
Yeah, but I would rather it just start out as like a wimpy Master Sword and then slowly become awesome by the end of the game, instead of being a weapon that's just good for 2 fights and then it breaks.
So like exactly what happens in Skyward Sword.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
even Wind Waker.
Like I thought that
when
was
you're
a pretty cool
restoring it.
concept, where it's like you unlock a new power up, except with the second Sacred Flame, it was completely useless. You get more fee dowsing slots than could possibly exist in the game. You get like 8 dowsing slots, and you can't even unlock that many options. But like obviously, if they could give something like that purpose, where you go, I like that, where you go through and you can upgrade the Master Sword, like it gets stronger or something like that, because we're rebuilding it essentially, is what it seems
Yeah, and
like.
you know,
Tears of the Kingdom.
like it's always messed with my what's that fancy gamer term? My ludonarrative dissonance. Whenever I see that cutscene of Link standing on guard in front of Zelda with like 65 enemies dead in front of him with the Master Sword, and I'm like, excuse me, that thing would be shattered by about 4 guys in. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But in Age of Calamity, there is no weapon durability. That's why
Exactly.
he was able to do that.
That's the thing, is Age of Calamity, you had all this entire weapon system. I never swapped out my weapons once. I like maybe upgraded them, just forged everything into the Master Sword or the main weapon you used for each character. But like I don't get what the big deal was in Age of Calamity with all that.
But yeah, that's my one thing, is just please don't make the Master Sword not very good because it breaks constantly. I really hope that it starts weak and then it gets stronger as the story goes on. And it can be the one weapon that doesn't break. I think that's all right. I don't think it'll ruin the game.
That's how I felt about the first game. On the topic of forging the Master Sword, I just wanted to bring up, because we talked about how it's been improved in the games. In A Link Between Worlds, they let you literally take Master Ore from Lowrule and improve the Master Sword with it. So it's not like this is not something we haven't seen in the games before.
That's true. Yeah.
And how many of the Zelda games, along that note, how many of the Zelda games with the Master Sword in it have sages also? Like Breath of the Wild is one of the only ones that comes to mind that doesn't have a sage to some degree, and maybe Twilight Princess.
I think the
I mean, Twilight Princess had the sages, but they didn't really directly interact with the Master Sword in that game.
Right, and they don't have to.
Yeah.
The fact is that they're
Yeah.
there.
Skyward
Lore
Sword,
continuum wide, like
I mean, Skyward,
according to the
there's
lore,
Skyward
they're
Sword,
just there.
Skyward Sword, Breath of the Wild.
But Skyward Sword, I feel, doesn't count because you have to make the Master Sword in that.
And Zelda's there too, and
Yeah.
she's the leader of the
And
sages.
technically, the symbolism of the Chamber of Sages is there because if you look at the loft or something, when the goddess
The sky-
statue reunites, yeah, there's the
Yeah,
if you
the
look at
Skyview Temple. Yeah.
the
or not
symbol,
the yeah.
the symbols
not
are
not
there.
the Skyview.
Skyview Temple's the forest temple, basically.
Yeah, not that.
But you know, the
the
Temple of Hylia, the Temple of Hylia.
the goddess temple. Oh,
So
this
all
bothering me.
that's-
I need to find this. All right, hold on.
all that's to say is that this is like really the only game where there isn't a sage directly or otherwise that can keep the Master Sword going full power the entire time. So it needing to take a nap and recharge, running on only the Master Sword's power alone, kind of makes sense to me. But it can be fixed in Tears of the Kingdom.
She is really old. She needs naps. She's
Exactly.
over 10,000 years
Yeah,
old.
let her get him.
Bring back the sages, kind of, and have them, continue their prayers to keep this Master Sword powerful.
Well, yeah, I feel like it should fade, like maybe over thousands of years or hundreds of years of resting. I feel like that makes sense, but like slaying a few bokoblins and then I need a nap. I don't know. That feels like a bit too much for me.
Yeah, and I don't know the full lore of the Master Sword very well, but I'm with Andy on this one. I would really like for I don't mind at least there being a weapon in the game which is ridiculously overpowered because it's a single player game. I'm okay feeling really powerful when I get a really cool weapon.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about that idea of evolving weapons and the idea of maybe turning the Master Sword into what's the name of the
Temple
sword?
of Hylias.
What's the name of the weapon that Fierce Deity Link is holding?
The double helix sword.
The double helix sword. That would be cool if
Is
you
that a
could.
canon name?
Yeah, I was about to say it doesn't
I
actually
think
have
it's
a canon name.
I think it's in the encyclopedia or something like that.
Oh,
in
really?
in the encyclopedia, they refer to as the Fierce Deity Sword.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Maybe Hyrule Story? I'm not sure because I think both of them have.
Well, you can-
reference
you can-
them,
Zelda
but-
Wiki just says Fierce Deity Sword. That must be the name that they used in
okay.
Breath of the Wild when you pick it up.
Yeah, probably.
All right, so that was all the questions. Any closing thoughts for anybody? From anybody, I should say.
Yeah, I got some beef. I wanna start beefing.
Go ahead, Nayru. Unload. Let's hear it.
I got a bone to pick with every single like game design YouTuber who has made a video on the topic of weapon durability because they
Okay,
all
that's
say the exact same thing that I find so disparaging and so patronizing when they say something along the lines of it doesn't matter if you don't like weapon durability, you don't know what you want. They say that all the
who said
time.
that? I
what?
want
Who
Yeah,
their
says
no,
name.
there's a
Who
bunch of
said
there's a bunch of people that say that, and they're all
Yeah.
like game design, man, and I'm like,
Yeah,
no.
and it bothers me so much because like in some games there is an argument to be made about that kind of thing, about the it's the kind of thing where if you get like everything you want immediately, then you might not have much of a desire to play the game, right? But with Breath of the Wild, it baffles me so much because like the entire ethos of the game is that you can do whatever you want, you can go wherever you want, you can do anything in any order you want. But for whatever reason, you can't use whatever weapon you want. And their argument is always like, oh, well, it's okay for there to be this one restriction because it forces you to use a whole bunch of different weapons. And it's like, man, maybe I don't want to be forced to use a whole bunch of different weapons, right?
Yeah,
and
no. Yeah, we talked about this earlier. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and
If I
and
want
it's
to, if
like,
I get a new weapon, I'll experiment with it myself. I don't need to be encouraged.
and
Yeah,
that's the thing. That's the thing, right? It's like I don't have any attachment to any single type of weapon in that game because they all break before I can figure out their nuances. So whenever I hear that, and it's an almost, I'm glad that a couple of you have seen those in videos too. I see it in almost every single like game design video about it. I see where they're like, trust me, if it wasn't in the game, you would be missing it. And it's like my experience of Breath of the Wild got significantly better when that item duplication glitch was found. Like, it became night and day better. So I strongly dislike the notion that we us that don't like weapon durability, we just don't know what's good for us. That's my beef.
It is a bit. Yeah, I don't like being talked down to by
yeah, it's a
people
bit
about that.
demeaning, but
Yeah, when you first brought this up, Nayru, I was like, "What the heck is he talking about? This is ridiculous." But I have
Yeah.
heard that before, and
yeah,
I've never thought about it. But you're right; that's a poor argument.
yeah. I understand where the idea comes from because there are a lot of engineering nuances that do need to go into game design, but saying, "Oh, the people don't know what they want," is a bit too generic of a statement.
Yep.
About it's something that can't be
Peasants know not what
quantified.
they need. We are here for them to lead them.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Being
that's my
told-
final thought.
Okay. Anybody else with some final thoughts?
Fun little tidbit: weapon durability has been around since at least the year 2000 in the Zelda series.
What?
Majora's Mask with the razor blade.
Oh,
it has,
nobody
that's
uses
true.
that.
Nobody
Everybody
uses
that
it.
one.
You upgrade it to the Gilded Sword, and you don't even have to get you just turn it right back in and get the Gilded Sword. So then it's infinite.
Well, it's earlier than that because the Giant's Knife in Ocarina of Time breaks.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
true, and
that's
that's even
true.
worse. Oh my gosh.
The
I love
crazy thing about that is that the Razor Sword has actual official art, and the Gilded Sword doesn't.
I do remember in Ocarina of Time when I got the first one, like I saw that it hit harder, the big Goron sword, and so I took it into the Ganon fight, and then it broke during it because I didn't know about the how you could make it better. And so I remember trying to stab Ganon with the broken sword for a while.
Excuse me, there's a difference. It's called the Giant's Knife when it breaks, and the big Goron Sword when it doesn't.
Oh, okay.
Snap!
No, I
Yeah,
just
honestly, I
I
didn't even
just
know
had
the
to say that
difference.
before.
I didn't know the difference until my Ocarina of Time stream just a month ago. So
I had to say before a comment said it.
Do we have any other final closing thoughts?
One quick one.
Sure,
Bring
go.
on the changes because that gives us content. Thank you.
Man, bring on the changes, man. Bring on the trailers.
Bring it
Yeah,
on!
you know what?
Yeah.
That's a
I
fair
need
point. Actually,
It's like, come
maybe
on,
I'm just
Nintendo. I need my
desperate.
money. Like my income's dropped to 20% still.
Damn, January.
I got rent to pay. Nintendo, please.
Yeah,
The
it
more,
would
the
be
more
nice if they.
talking points, the better.
Just don't become a Pokemon YouTuber in the absence of Zelda content. I don't recommend it.
Yeah, don't
note
plan
it?
to.
Trying to think if I have any final thought to throw out on this. But we've pretty much covered it all, I think. Nintendo, if you're listening, these are a bunch of Zelda tubers who do things, who help advertise your game. We want repairable weapons.
Or even more features.
More
Also,
features.
Nintendo, if you're watching this video, please bring Soul Calibur 2 with link to the Switch. Thank you very much.
Oh wait, are we getting all of our requests up for Nintendo? Oh gee, what do I
Sure,
want?
sure.
More
Go
bread
ahead.
varieties. More bread varieties.
You know,
To
people that
satisfy
didn't
us
know you
all.
can make bread in Breath of the Wild.
Say that again. What?
Did you know that there are people that didn't know you can make bread in Breath of the Wild?
Oh yeah, I know them. I'm trying to educate them all. It's a long, it's tedious process, but it's
You know
it's
each and
glorious
every
work.
one of them.
All right then. Well, I think we might be done. So thank you guys for coming to the show.
Woo!
Thanks for
Sorry
having
for
us.
being late.
No problem.
course.
I plan to do these once a month again, like I was doing before he disappeared. So Thank you again for all showing up.
Yeah,
Fucking
this is
amazing.
awesome.
Yes.
Very
I love
fun time.
these.
Also, suggestion, like these are kind of like a podcast style discussion, so you could probably put these on both YouTube and like maybe if you want to make like a Pixel Fusion Productions podcast, who knows?
Ooh.
I'll play around with that idea. I'm still getting back into the groove, and today I had some technical issues setting this up. Anyhow, thanks again, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut the stream.